To tell you the truth, fucking miserable. I'm gonna go fucking...
The story of Oscar de la Hoya is far deeper than the image the world was sold. On the surface, he was everything boxing could ever hope for: a six-division world champion, an Olympic gold medalist, and a global superstar who generated hundreds of millions of dollars. But behind that polished image was a reality that very few understood. His rise wasn't just built on talent or hard work, it was built on survival. The same sport that lifted him out of poverty and gave him global recognition also became the place where his deepest pain lived. To the public, he was the golden boy, smiling, marketable, and unstoppable. But internally, he was something very different, a man shaped by trauma, carrying emotional scars that never healed. His success wasn't just a story of greatness, it was also a story of what happens when a person learns to shut down emotionally just to survive. That duality is what makes his story tragic, because everything that made him great in the ring was rooted in something broken outside of it.
Household was abusive.
The real story doesn't begin under bright lights or inside a boxing ring. It begins in East Los Angeles, in a modest home where a young boy learned very early that emotions could be dangerous. Born on February 4, 1973, Oscar grew up in a family that had migrated from Mexico in search of a better life. His mother, Cecilia, carried dreams of becoming a singer but instead found herself working long hours in a factory. Despite the hardships, she brought moments of warmth into the home, singing traditional songs while cooking, moments that Oscar later described as peaceful and comforting. But those moments were unpredictable. The same person who brought warmth could suddenly become someone entirely different. For a child, that kind of emotional instability creates confusion and fear. It teaches you that love is not always safe, and that lesson stays with you. For Oscar, it became the foundation of how he would see the world: unpredictable, harsh, and something you had to emotionally detach from in order to survive.
Passed away when I was 16, 17 years old. And what people don't know is that she was very abusive physically, and I was the only child.
What made his childhood even more complex was that he wasn't treated like the others. While his siblings were largely spared, Oscar became the primary target of physical abuse. The beatings started when he was just 5 years old, and they weren't random. They were repeated, intense, and deeply confusing for a child who didn't understand why he was being singled out. In his later reflections, he described moments where he expected comfort but received punishment instead. One particular memory stood out. After nearly being hit by a car, he ran to his mother for safety, only to be beaten in the street. Over time, something inside him changed. He stopped reacting. He stopped crying. He stopped feeling. That emotional shutdown wasn't weakness, it was survival. But it came at a cost. That same ability to disconnect from pain would later make him incredibly dangerous in the ring, allowing him to absorb punishment without hesitation.
At the ring, I would have all this anger and rage, and I wouldn't change it for anything, because I strongly feel that what I lived, my life.
That anger had a face. In the documentary, Oscar de la Hoya revealed something deeply unsettling about what truly drove him inside the ring. He admitted that every time he stepped between the ropes, he wasn't just fighting an opponent, he was fighting a memory. In his mind, he would replace the face of the man in front of him with the face of his mother. Every punch he absorbed became permission. Permission to finally feel something he had buried for years. Permission to release anger that had been locked away since childhood. He even confessed that he didn't mind getting hit in the face. Not because he enjoyed pain, but because pain gave him an excuse to react, to explode, to finally let out everything he had suppressed for so long. But beneath that anger was something even deeper, something darker that he carried in silence for more than 3 decades. At just 13 years old, while competing in a youth boxing tournament in Hawaii, de la Hoya was sexually assaulted by a woman more than twice his age. It was his first sexual experience, but instead of understanding it, he buried it. Completely. He never spoke about it publicly until August 31, 2021, in an interview with the Los Angeles Times, nearly 40 years later. When he finally shared it, reports said his voice changed. He didn't name the person. He didn't go into detail. He simply acknowledged that it happened, and that it never left him. That moment reveals how a child, especially one already living in the public eye, survives something like that. By pushing it down. By moving forward. By becoming the golden boy while carrying unimaginable weight underneath. Then came another devastating blow. His mother, Cecilia Gonzalez de la Hoya, was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer at just 38 years old. When Oscar was only 17, she refused to miss his fight at the 1990 Goodwill Games. Despite her illness, despite skipping treatment, she sat in the crowd waving both the American and Mexican flags. From inside the ring, Oscar could see her, fragile, fading, yet still there. Still supporting him. That image stayed with him forever. But just months later, on October 28, 1990, she passed away. By the time he reached the hospital, she no longer recognized him. He never got the chance to say goodbye. Never got to say, "I love you." He later described wanting to break through elevator doors just to reach her in time, but he was too late. He just 17 years old. He was left carrying everything: childhood abuse, hidden trauma, and overwhelming grief with no way to process it. There was nowhere for it to go, except into boxing. By the time he turned professional in November 1992, the world saw a completely different story. A clean story. A powerful story. A 19-year-old Olympic gold medalist from the 1992 Barcelona Olympics, supposedly fulfilling his mother's dying wish. He stood on the podium crying, and that image became iconic: the American dream wrapped in gold gloves. But years later, in his 2023 HBO documentary, he admitted the truth was more complicated. His mother had never actually asked him to win gold. In that overwhelming moment after victory, surrounded by cameras and pressure, he created that story himself. And over time, that story became part of his identity. Inside the ring, his rise was unstoppable. He turned pro at the Great Western Forum in Inglewood, knocking out his first opponent in the opening round. He finished his first year 10-0 with 9 knockouts, immediately capturing attention with his speed, precision, and charisma. By 1994, he had already won the WBO super featherweight title. In 1995, he added lightweight belts. In 1996, he stopped the legendary Julio Cesar Chavez in just 4 rounds. In 1997, he outboxed Pernell Whitaker to become welterweight champion. Title after title. Division after division. He wasn't just winning. He was dominating an era. Outside boxing, his fame exploded. He released a Latin pop album that earned a Grammy nomination. He wrote a children's book. He became a crossover star in one of boxing's most profitable eras. But behind the fame, behind the championships, behind the smile, there was nothing. In a 2023 interview with The Guardian, connected to his HBO documentary, De La Hoya made one of the most honest admissions of his life. He said he never truly loved boxing. He was simply good at it. Disciplined. Conditioned. Programmed to succeed. He described himself as a robot, someone built to perform, not to feel. But inside that robot was what he called a volcano. A constant buildup of pressure fueled by trauma, loss, and anger. He explained that without his mother's absence, without the pain of his childhood, that volcano would never have existed.